Before we dive into this harrowing tale, let us know where you're watching from today, and if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe for more eye-opening stories about our relationship with the natural world. Help! Help! He's not letting go! Jake's voice tore through the stadium, raw, frantic, breaking with terror. For a heartbeat, everything froze. The music halted, the crowd fell silent, then erupted into screams. From the pool's edge, a trainer shouted, "Emergency protocol! Pull the net! Pull the net!" But the net didn't budge. Another trainer scrambled toward the call box, hands trembling as she slammed the alarm. "Jake's not responding! He's not responding!" In the stands, children sobbed, parents covered their mouths, and phones captured the nightmare unfolding in real time. Jake surfaced one last time, blood streaking his face, voice barely a whisper. "Please, help me." Then Kanuk dragged him beneath again, vanishing forever. This was February 17th, a warm afternoon at OceanWorld in San Diego. The stands brimmed with laughter, flashing cameras, and the illusion of nature safely tamed. Jake Lawson was the face of the park, a seasoned trainer with 15 years of fearless dedication, respected by colleagues, adored by visitors. But behind the applause lurked a predator weighing 12,000 pounds, shaped by years of confinement and stripped of freedom. On that day, something inside Kanuk snapped. What should have been a family-friendly show turned into a deadly struggle no one could halt, and Jake Lawson would never resurface. Jake wasn't just any trainer. He was the trainer everyone knew, the star of every brochure, promo video, and guided tour. For 15 years, he poured his heart into the whales living behind those towering glass walls. To the audience, he was magnetic. To his co-workers, fearless. To the orcas, family. Starting as a part-time feeder at 19 while studying biology, Jake's quiet passion for marine life soon revealed a rare gift. The whales responded not just to his commands, but to his very presence, even his silence. By 25, he was an elite trainer. By 30, head of OceanWorld's Orca program. His colleagues called him the whale whisperer, for he never used fear or force, believing trust was stronger than protocol. But that trust came with risk. Jake logged more free swims, the rare unprotected moments inside the tank, than any trainer before him. He dismissed warnings, insisting, "If you treat them like killers, that's what they'll become. Treat them like partners and they'll protect you." And for 15 years the orcas did, until one didn't. Kanuk was no ordinary orca. Born in captivity, 12,000 pounds of muscle and sharp intelligence, bred behind glass walls and raised under stadium lights, he'd never known the wild ocean's pull. From the start, Kanuk was trained to perform, but his handlers described him as calculating, observant, and quietly unsettling. Unlike his eager peers, Kanuk hesitated before commands, as if weighing every decision. Over time, he earned a reputation not as a star, but as the unpredictable one. In 2017, during a routine swim session, Kanuk suddenly broke formation, grabbed a junior trainer's leg, and dragged her underwater for nearly a minute. She surfaced gasping, terrified, clutching her injured knee. The park called it playful curiosity, but whispers spread among staff. It wasn't play, it was power. Kanuk had refused to return to holding areas, slammed his tail at gates, and accepted food only from certain trainers. Some blamed stress, others said loneliness. Whatever the cause, no one truly understood Kanuk's mind, not even Jake. On that fateful February afternoon, the gulf of misunderstanding between human and beast turned deadly. OceanWorld was built on dreams, the hope of connecting people to the ocean's wonders. But beneath the polished tanks and choreographed shows lay a dark history few ever saw. A warning that nature's power cannot be caged without consequences. Over the past 2 decades, OceanWorld had faced numerous safety violations that painted a troubling picture beneath its polished facade. Trainers suffered injuries during rehearsals, safety barriers were often inadequate, emergency equipment malfunctioned at critical moments, and reports were sometimes falsified to downplay the severity of incidents. Each time, the park paid fines, issued carefully worded statements, and moved on, leaving deeper problems ignored. Behind the scenes, the orcas were pushed beyond their limits. Grueling performance schedules left them mentally exhausted. Stimulation was scarce, and when they resisted, Isolation and harsher discipline followed. As the animals grew more unpredictable, management responded with increasing denial and aggression rather than understanding. Whistleblowers emerged, former staff who exposed the park's negligence, the downplaying of injuries, and the silencing of concerned trainers with non-disclosure agreements. Jake Lawson wasn't one to stir trouble, but even he had started questioning the system. He asked for more time off for Kanuk, worried about shifts in his behavior, and pushed for a pause on free swim performances. Yet the relentless pressure to perform was unyielding. Ticket sales were soaring, the show was a star attraction, and Jake was its face. He was assured that everything was under control, that protocols were in place, and that Kanuk's actions were simply acting out. Trusting both the system and the whale, Jake stepped onto the platform once again on that fateful day. February 17th began like any other show day under the clear San Diego sky. Sunlight sparkled on the Orca pool's surface as tourists filled every seat, clutching popcorn and cameras, children leaning eagerly over rails waiting for the first splash. Upbeat music crackled through the speakers, setting the mood for a full house. Backstage, Jake prepared with quiet focus. Running through the show sheet, checking cues, suiting up. Before the crowd arrived, he took his usual time alone with Kanuk, rehearsing for 30 uninterrupted minutes inside the tank. Just the two of them. Observers later said everything seemed normal. Kanuk followed commands, glided smoothly, even nudged Jake playfully. No signs of aggression, just routine. But some trainers would later recall subtle changes they hadn't noticed then. Kanuk's pacing was slightly faster, his eyes more fixed, his usual vocalizations absent during hand signals, and a twitch in his dorsal fin when Jake's back was turned. At 2:03, the show began. Jake jogged onto the wet platform, waving to cheers as loudspeakers blared his name. Kanuk surfaced beside him to thunderous applause, splashing the first 5 rows dramatically. The opening was flawless. Then Jake dove in. The crowd erupted, the highlight of every performance, the trust dive. Trainer and Orca swimming side by side, a symbol of harmony between man and beast. Kanuk circled him once, then twice, slower on the second pass. Jake extended his hand, the signal for the synchronized spin. But Kanuk didn't spin. He circled again, this time closer, his dorsal fin cutting the water like a blade. Jake smiled, unaware. To the audience, it was part of the act, but beneath the surface, danger brewed. Kanuk's breathing quickened, his tail slapped the water hard once, his pectoral fins twitched out of rhythm, and then he vanished. Jake treaded water, scanning. The music played on, the crowd clapped, waiting for the big jump, but Kanuk wasn't preparing to leap, he was preparing to strike. At 2:08, the illusion shattered. Without warning, Kanuk surged upward with terrifying speed, hitting Jake mid-torso, launching him out of the water, then slamming him down with bone-crushing force. Witnesses later recalled hearing a sickening crack, not from the speakers, but with their own ears, the unmistakable sound of bone breaking. Then screams, not from Jake, but from the crowd. Blood surfaced within seconds. At first, people thought it was part of the show, a stunt, a special effect. But as the water turned from clear blue to a dull red haze, confusion gave way to horror. Kanuk didn't release. He dragged Jake deep into the tank. The water stilled. 10 seconds passed. 20. 30. Then Jake's body broke the surface, limp, only for Kanuk to grab him again, this time by the leg. Trainers on deck sprang into action. Alarms blared over the PA system. A staff member shouted, "Emergency protocol! Clear the pool!" But Kanuk ignored every cue. The buzzer, underwater tones, shouted commands. He wasn't playing. A lifeguard sprinted for the emergency pole, a 10-foot aluminum rod designed to distract whales in rare moments like this. Others rushed to release the gate into the medical pool, hoping to separate Kanuk. But the whale refused all attempts. The horrifying truth became clear. This was an attack. In desperation, a trainer tossed a bait bucket into the water, hoping to redirect Kanuk's attention. He didn't flinch. Kanuk surfaced briefly. Everyone saw Jake's body in his mouth, barely conscious, arms reaching for the surface, then was yanked under again. The crowd was evacuated. Children sobbed, parents shielded their eyes, others stood frozen, paralyzed by the nightmare unfolding before them. This wasn't just a protocol failure. It was a total breakdown. Kanuk was no longer under human control. Every agonizing second felt like an eternity as failed rescue attempts chipped away at hope. Jake surfaced once more, barely conscious, blood streaming from his mouth, one eye swollen shut. Then came the final moment. Kanuk breached, leaping halfway from the water, and landed with Jake beneath him. The water exploded, then silence. No bubbles, no movement. Jake Lawson did not resurface again. The attack lasted 5 harrowing minutes. 5 minutes that would change everything. By the time Kanuk finally sank beneath the surface, dragging Jake's lifeless body with him, the stadium was engulfed in chaos. The crowd had been evacuated, but backstage panic reigned supreme. Safety protocols meant to prevent such a disaster, the emergency nets designed to section off the tank, the gates that could isolate whales in seconds, had all failed. The gates jammed, the nets never deployed, and Kanuk remained in the main pool, circling slowly, dragging Jake's body like a grim trophy. Every few minutes, he surfaced, as if taunting the staff, asserting his dominance. Jake had been underwater for more than 7 minutes. At last, after repeated loud underwater signals and desperate attempts, Kanuk released him. The body floated to the surface, utterly motionless. A dive team plunged in, pulling Jake from the water and hoisting him onto the platform. His wetsuit was shredded. Blood poured from a deep gash along his ribs. One arm hung at a grotesque angle, his lips tinged blue. CPR began immediately, chest compressions, rescue breaths, over and over. A paramedic on scene later recalled it was the longest 10 minutes of his life, fighting to breathe life into a man who had none left. At 2:41, Jake Lawson was declared dead. The official autopsy cited blunt force trauma to the chest and head, multiple rib fractures, internal bleeding, and drowning as causes. But those who knew him best understood the deeper truth. One former trainer, speaking anonymously, said, "He didn't stand a chance, and we all knew Kanuk had it in him. We just hoped it wouldn't come to this." Jake had trusted the system, trusted the whale, trusted the institution, and that trust had cost him his life. News of Jake Lawson's death spread faster than cleanup crews could drain the blood from the pool. By evening, national headlines screamed, "Veteran trainer killed by killer whale at OceanWorld." Social media exploded with shaky, grainy footage of screaming children and horrified parents. Clips dissected on live streams, news panels, and talk shows. Outside OceanWorld's gates, a candlelight vigil sprang up less than 24 hours later. Former guests, trainers, strangers, all gathered in stunned silence, holding photos of Jake. Some wept openly, others stood frozen in disbelief. To them, Jake wasn't just a trainer, he was the face of OceanWorld. The man who had made Orca seem gentle, safe, even magical. Now that illusion had been shattered by the very creature he had trusted. OceanWorld responded swiftly, at least on the surface. The park suspended Orca shows out of respect. Press releases filled headlines with carefully chosen phrases like "tragic accident" and "unforeseeable event." Spokespeople offered condolences, promising internal investigations and sweeping change. But behind closed doors, a different story was unfolding. 2 weeks later, a leaked government safety report revealed damning findings. Over 3 years, OceanWorld had violated federal safety protocols at least a dozen times. Failures in gate mechanisms, unreported near misses, undertrained staff, and ignored animal behavioral red flags. Jake's own emails expressing concern over Kanuk's aggression were included in the report. The public erupted in fury. Animal rights activists flooded the streets, protesters lining marine parks nationwide. Hashtags calling to end orca captivity trended worldwide. Petitions gained millions of signatures within days. What began as a tragedy had ignited a movement. Jake Lawson's name became more than a headline. It was a rallying cry for reform, justice for every trainer forced to mask their fear with a smile, and for every animal confined to tanks they were never meant to live in. Jake died doing what he loved, working with animals he believed in, performing for the crowds he cherished, trusting a whale he had spent over a decade calling a partner. But was his death preventable? The reports say yes. The ignored warnings say yes. The buried history and silenced trainer's testimony says yes. What killed Jake wasn't just a 12,000-pound predator. It was negligence, repetition, a system that prized performance over precaution and silence over safety. In a quiet interview after the funeral, Jake's sister said only one thing. He warned them. They didn't listen. Today, candles still flicker outside OceanWorld's gates. The show lights have returned, but something fundamental changed that day. A question now lingers, one the world still wrestles with. Are we truly protecting these animals or simply using them? Are we honoring trainers or exploiting their passion? And how many more lives will it take before we finally choose to listen? This tragic story of Jake Lawson and Kanuk is more than just an isolated incident. It's a powerful reminder of the risks we take when we confine and exploit wildlife for entertainment. These animals are not performers. They are wild beings with instincts and intelligence shaped by freedom, not captivity. Protecting wildlife means respecting their nature, listening to the warning signs, and creating spaces where they can live with dignity, not under human control. We all share the responsibility to raise awareness and act with care when interacting with the wild. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe to help spread the message. Together, we can foster respect for wildlife and ensure tragedies like this never happen again.